Being the richest man is an excellent flex, but this flex comes with many problems. Sometimes these problems may include receiving threats from a country where your company is booming. And this is precisely what happened between Elon Musk and China. Welcome to Manatech, and today we are bringing you the warning that China gave to Elon Musk. So without wasting any of your time, let's get right in. The Chinese government has undisputable global influence and presence. They have risen to a position where they can influence world events, and many countries are training them to be leaders, so their complaints to the UN are not simply dismissed. This is why their latest United Nations protest over Elon Musk's stalled satellite has the world's richest man scratching his head. Several aerospace companies have vowed to launch thousands of satellites into low Earth orbit, including SpaceX, OneWeb, and Blue Origin. However, these giant constellations may increase space traffic and hazards in the future. As a result, according to a 2018 NASA study, these companies should ensure that their future satellites are deorbited as soon as their missions are over. With an initial constellation of 4,425 probes and the second constellation of 7,518, SpaceX has applied to the Federal Communications Commissions to launch approximately 12,000 internet beaming satellites. Meanwhile, the FCC has allowed the launch of up to 720 satellites for one European corporation, which has also requested permission to launch another 1,260 satellites. If all of these constellations were launched successfully, the number of operational satellites in orbit would triple. At the same time, the risk of catastrophic and cascade satellite collisions increases. NASA is interested in seeing how astronauts react in a crowded space environment. They envision future situations where gigantic constellations of thousands of satellites dominate low Earth orbit because of the enormous number of spacecraft participating in prominent constellations, to see what influence this will have. According to Zhiqi Liu, NASA's chief scientist for orbital debris, these space enterprises must pay special attention to key areas to avoid polluting the near-Earth space environment. Spacecraft crashes, resulting in several pieces of debris flying into space at thousands of kilometers per hour, are especially troubling to the aerospace sector with large orbital debris. Furthermore, this garbage may endanger other spacecraft in orbit, resulting in more disasters and damage. Many people are concerned that these collisions will trigger a chain reaction, with further collisions occurring until low Earth orbit becomes too crowded to securely host satellites. The Kessler syndrome is the name given to the scenario. A defunct Russian satellite crashed with the US communications probe in 2009, resulting in hundreds of bits of debris and emphasizing the problem's implications. Since humanity began launching spacecraft into orbit, there have been around 200 unexpected space explosions. While the US and the Soviet Union fought for supremacy in the then new area of space, a Chinese Communist Party member reportedly claimed that China couldn't even put a potato in orbit. However, this was a while back. Now things have changed. Xi Jinping, China's president after more than 6 decades, China's current leader is seen receiving 3 astronauts who were dispatched to the country's own space stations earlier this month. Beijing has stressed since members' remarks, achievements, and objectives as the CCP centennial approaches in 2021. China has flown humans into space via satellite and is currently preparing to create a base on Mars. President Xi Jinping has declared that China's space dreams to conquer other nations and become the dominant space power by 2045, according to Christopher Newman, a professor of space law and policy at Northumbria University in the United Kingdom. Everything helps China achieve its aim of becoming the world's sole science and technology superpower. China said in March 2021 that it would pursue a study into the genesis and evolution of the cosmos as a frontier technology. Beijing has now switched its attention to Mars, where it wants to send its first crew expedition after landing a spacecraft there in 2033. As it prepares for some of these future missions, China has grown far more aggressive in filing patents relating to space technologies in recent years. A Chinese corporation submitted 6,634 patents pertaining to spaceflight, including vehicles and equipment, between January 2000 and June 2021. However, roughly 90 of those patent applications were filed between January 2016 and June 2021, a period of 5.5 years. Growing political tensions between China and the United States may spill into space, as Chinese businesses file the top 3 patent requests, followed by Boeing of the United States. One example is a disagreement between the two governments over the so-called Artemis Accords, a NASA-led agreement to set criteria for safe and fair space explorations. Australia, Canada, Italy, Japan, Luxembourg, the United Arab Emirates, and the United Kingdom are among the countries that have joined. However, China has not. The polarization of space activity along geopolitical lines, according to Northumbria University's Newman, is a major and probably existential threat to human space activity. The accords, he added, were an attempt by China and its supporters to circumvent the usual venue for international decision-making. As a result, because space access is a US initiative run by an American company, the situation became extremely uncomfortable. Musk versus China. The Chinese government recently stated that its still under construction space stations had 2 close calls with satellites launched by SpaceX's Starlink program, resulting in Elon Musk facing criticism in China. According to the letter submitted by China to the United Nations Office for Outer Space Affairs, China's Tiangong space station was obliged to take evasive action twice to avoid colliding with satellites launched by the Musk rocket business SpaceX. China alleges that, when faced with inbound Starlink satellites on July 1 and October 21, its space stations had to undertake proactive collision avoidance control. Nonetheless, the claims have yet to be independently verified, and SpaceX has yet to respond. According to the letter, close contact with launching satellites posed a risk to astronauts on the China space station's life or health between May 16 and June 24, 2021. When Starlink plummeted from an orbital height of around 555 kilometers to 382 kilometers. According to a paper posted on the UN Office for Outer Space Affairs website, a drop in altitude caused a collision threat between Starlink and the Tiangong space station on July 1. On October 21, the second incident assassinated the Chinese evasive move to avoid crashing with Starlink. According to China's permanent missions to the United Nations, the collision risk between the Starlink 2305 satellite and the China space stations existed because the spacecraft's movement plan was inaccurate and orbital imperfections were difficult to assess. The 2 instances sparked fury in Chinese social media, with some people labeling Musk's satellite space garbage. The shocking topic has gained almost 900 million views on Weibo. On the Weibo microblog, one poster pondered if SpaceX satellites were weapons. According to China's state-run Global Times, SpaceX may be seeking to test China's space capabilities and response awareness. According to the United Nations Outer Space Treaty, governments are responsible for national space stations all across the world. China has suggested that the UN Secretary-General remind governments of their obligations, including government and non-government organizations. As Elon Musk is well known in China, where one of his companies, Tesla, has a significant presence in the world's largest market for electric vehicles. According to Reuters, the announcement provoked a fierce pushback against Musk on China's Weibo's social networking platform, with just a small number of individuals denouncing the billionaire's space ambitions. Following the successful launch of its space station in April 2021, China began building on its space stations, which is expected to be completed by the end of 2022. Logically, China would be on the defensive because this is intended to be their crowning space achievement. In industries ranging from semiconductor development to artificial intelligence, the US and China are already competing for dominance. Even though the United States currently leads the business, this is a new frontier. The United States continues to lead in all areas of space capability, according to Scott Pace, director of the Space Policy Program at George Washington University's Elliott School of International Affairs. However, China is swiftly closing the gap. He asserted that the US has a good space exploration program, clear directions, and capable allies and partners. The challenge for the US is how well and quickly it executes its own policies. This minor issue can turn into something severe. I just hope that both China and Musk find a way out of this, and that way should not include polluting the space.